Yo, if you're new to the channel, thanks for watching Pond Saga 5. I recorded this footage about 3 years ago, and it was my first year in the fish hobby. And I wasn't going to put it out because it was too painful for me to come to grips with what transpired, but it is what it is. I'm finally ready to put it out for you guys so I can help someone else along their journey so they don't make the mistakes that I did. A lot of YouTubers think they know it all, but that's not the case. We all make mistakes. If you guys are new to my channel, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Also, help me to get this video at least 1,000 likes. It really helps my channel out. It's moments like these that make me fall in love with the fish hobby all over again. Seeing how these giants swim so gracefully through the water with no care in the world. Moments like these make me reminisce on how small they were when I first got them and what a journey it has been getting them from out of the tank into the pond outside. These arowanas are over 2 feet and pushing towards 3. These arowanas have had the biggest growth spurt out of all of my monster fish. Bro, how do you keep ending up? How you get up there, fam? This is the second time that my peacock bass ended up on top of the net. I don't know how he got up there, but he ended up on top of the net. Come here. Where you going? Come here. Come to daddy. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Don't make me come get you. Bruh. I later discovered that there was a small hole that was probably made for one of the arowanas jumping up and breaking through it, which allowed the peacock bass to swim through it and end up on top of the net. I swear, if I don't come out here on certain days, come here. Easy. Hey. Easy. Okay. Daddy got you. Daddy got you. Hey. There we go. Look how big he is. Come on. Look how big this boy is. The day after I found him on top of the net, he was swimming face down, tail up, so I thought it was something that would correct itself overnight. But the day after that, when I went out to check on the pond again, I saw him basically floating to the top. From doing a little bit more research after the fact, I found out that while he was on top of the net, he had probably gulped in too much air and it had affected his swim bladder. Basically, too much gas had entered his intestines, and I see a lot of people nowadays feeding their fish peas, and also they use Epsom salt in a quarantine tank to help the fish release gas. I wish I would have found this out sooner because then I probably could have saved him. Even though this was out of my control, in a way I still felt like this was my fault. This was my first time keeping monster fish, and I felt like had I known these things beforehand or been more knowledgeable, I could have saved him. But at the same time, if this wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have done the research on it to learn about it. So by the same token, I really couldn't beat myself up too much. I just had to be prepared for the next time. As monster fish keepers, we experience things like this from time to time. We just have to learn from our mistakes and just be better prepared if a situation like this happens again in the future. Because of this, I now keep frozen peas in my freezer. Later that day, I replaced the net over the pond just to make sure there weren't any holes that any fish could swim out of. I had to act fast because I didn't want to lose any more fish. All the fish appear to be fine. No other swim bladder issues that I'm noticing in these fish. Everyone is swimming good, looking good. The pond appears to be very peaceful. Everyone's just doing their own thing. But little did I know that this was the quiet before the storm. Man, this the second time I done lost 2 fish in 2 days. The very next morning, I came out. How? And I found yet another fish on top of the net. And this time, I really have no clue as to how, because I'm inspecting it now and I don't see any holes in the net whatsoever. So now, this raises my suspicions. I don't know whether these fish are jumping out or if there's something getting inside of the pond and pulling them out. Only time will tell. The very next day after this, so this is 3 days in a row that I've lost 3 fish. The very next day, I find my arowana had jumped out of the pond. So now I'm determined to figure out what exactly is going on. Arowana typically jump out when they get spooked. So in order for him to get scared enough to jump out of the pond, there's something going on. So you know what? I decided to set up a camera to see exactly what's going on back here. Let's watch this clip together. Now pay close attention to detail. Right here, it appears that my arowana got spooked, and by him panicking, it caused a chain reaction. I don't have any lights inside of this pond, so I'm guessing what probably triggered this is that my arowana probably saw a shadow or some sort. It could have even been a bug that flew by and appeared a lot bigger, and that's probably what spooked him to the point to jump out. I was so shocked when I saw this video, because then I absolutely could understand the power that these fish possess. And obtaining this type of power, it was apparent to me that once again, I would have to make an upgrade, because clearly they've also outgrown this enclosure as well, just like they outgrew their 75-gallon tank. Also, it was a good thing I set this camera up, because I was able to come out and save the other peacock bass that got stranded on top of the net. Yo, if you're new to the channel, thanks for watching Pond Saga 5. Do me a favor, make sure you subscribe to the channel, set your alerts to get notified for my future videos, and please help this video get at least 1,000 likes. This is how you can help support my channel for free. On the previous episode, I came out in the morning and I saw one of my peacock bass swimming on top of the net, and I had absolutely no idea how he got up there. So what I ended up doing was taking a closer look, and I discovered that there was a small hole that he managed to swim through, and that's how he ended up on top. The hole in the net most likely was caused by one of the arowanas jumping up late at night. This was the first time that this ever happened, and I'm glad I was able to come out to find him on top of the net and not somewhere in the grass. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, 2 days later, I noticed he was having difficulty swimming. After doing some extensive research, the cause of this was when he was on top of the net, he most likely gulped in too much air. And by doing so, caused him to have problems with his swim bladder, something called swim bladder disease. There are a few different ways that a fish can get this. They can get this from rapidly eating, they can get this from overeating, they can get this from high levels of nitrates in the water, they can get this from constipation, or they can get this from gulping in too much air. And had I been more knowledgeable, I could have saved him by just feeding him some peas. Later that day, I replaced the net just to make sure there weren't any more holes that the fish could swim out of. I did this ASAP because I didn't want what had occurred the other day to happen again, and I didn't want to lose any fish anytime soon. But little did I know that this was the quiet before the storm. The next day when I came out, I saw something that I didn't want to see, and that was another dead fish. I had now lost 2 fish in the past 2 days. And this time, after walking around the pond and inspecting very carefully, I didn't see any holes in sight. This time, I really don't know how this peacock bass could have ended up on top. And the very next morning when I woke up, I came out to inspect the pond once again, and look what I found. I found that my arowana had jumped out of the pond and landed on the side of the grass. So at this point, I didn't know what was going on, but I planned to get to the bottom of it. And there was only one thing that I could think of to do, and that was to install a camera and roll the playback footage. Arowanas are a strong and hardy fish, but they also get spooked rather easily, especially in the dark when I don't have any lights on back here. So it seemed to me that while the arowana fish was swimming, and it was possibly asleep while it was still swimming, it's quite possible that it may have bumped into another fish while swimming and got spooked, and that caused a chain reaction. But in any event, just from watching the playback footage and seeing how powerful these fish are, and it became very clear to me that these are monster fish and they are going to get bigger. And if I wanted to keep them around, I would have to upgrade my pond to be able to accommodate their size. It was time for an upgrade. And this pond was a lot bigger than the pond that I had previously, which was an 8x8. This one was 16 feet long and 10 feet wide, which means that this can hold up to 3,600 gallons. This pond was absolutely huge, which means that not only could it accommodate the size of my monster fish that I'm already currently growing out, but this also means that there is enough space in here to house more monster fish that I want to get in the future. And also, I didn't have to pay a dime for this pond. My sister gave it to me because she was going to get rid of it. Thanks, sis. I appreciate you. Now let's start moving these fish around.
Thank you guys for making it easy. It appears Oscars are the easiest. One-handed, baby. One-handed, baby. That color right there.
Man, these Oscars never go down without a fight. Now that I have him still, you can check out the patterns on this beautiful red albino Oscar right here.
Pretty. I got you, boy. I've been so feisty.
Look at these plants in the pond. I love having plants in here because it helps to keep down the nitrates, but it
Come on,
also
then. How y'all
adds
doing?
luster and greenery to it. But it's kind of difficult to see the fish, and they are definitely using it to their advantage because they're hiding from me. Check out the colors and the pattern on this tiger Oscar. I remember when I first got him, he was probably the smallest Oscar that I owned, but he soon caught up to speed once I put him inside of the big pond.
Getting rid of all the water in the pond. See how low I can get it.
I'm trying to get the water as low as possible without damaging the pump because I know I have to get these 01s out and it won't be easy.
Gotta trust the process. Y'all in here good? Alright, cool. Look at that beast right there. Look at.
This is a beautiful catfish species. This is my Cynodontis featherfin catfish. They're only supposed to grow about 6 to 8 inches in the tank, but in the pond they get much bigger, as you can see. And this guy has put on size quickly.
Look at that beauty. Man, I got this back in September. Cynodontis catfish right there, man. Beautiful. Look at them all gray. Oh, you quirking. Wow. You can see these arowanas.
These arowanas are big, and I knew they were big, but I didn't realize how big they were until I lowered the water and it was time to remove them. And when you look at those scales on the top of their head, you can see some discoloration. That's from them jumping up at night and getting their scales caught in the net and banging around in the pond. Not only are these fish huge, but they are also very powerful, and I have to be very careful when moving them.
Getting large, quite large. You hit them up real nice, big boy. Real nice. You gotta get these big jokers out of here, man. These bastards big. Golly. Sheesh.
I moved the arowanas out, but I'm still trying to get this pond down enough so I can get the rest of this water out, because I have to move this pond. And when it's filled with water, it's very heavy. As you can see, we moved the pond to the side, and now we're trying to level out the area where the old pond was so we can prep it for the new pond. Now we've moved the pond into the area where we want it. All we have to do now is fill it with water and try to get all the wrinkles out. I initially had all the fish inside of a garbage bin, but I decided to take them out because I was running out of space, and also the arowanas didn't have any room to swim in there because they were too long for it. In hindsight, I wish I was more prepared before I moved these fish. Looking back at this clip, I could have just built a 5-gallon bucket filter and just let it run on this pool pond for a few days while I prepped the bigger pond. I wasn't prepared and I didn't think everything through. I had a busy schedule for the week, and since I had help, I was trying to take advantage of it. If I were to try to break one pond down, remove the fish, and then put another pond up, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish all these things in one day without help. But now looking back on it, all the things that I managed to do in this one day was all done in vain, and I was quickly about to realize that.
One-handed. Uh-oh.
This right here is one of my red Oscars, and I love the colors on them and their patterns, especially when the sun is hitting the pond. They just look beautiful in the water. One by one, I put all the fish inside of the pond. The amount of space that these fish are getting ready to have in this pond is ridiculous. I never imagined that I was going to have to upgrade from the previous pond that I already had. I did a lot of water changes on my previous pond, and my fish were used to large water changes, so I didn't think much about this 100% water change. I added my water conditioner in it, which basically makes tap water safe, and I also put some beneficial bacteria inside of it. But none of that matters unless the pond has already been cycled. And as a new fish keeper, I was about to learn this the hard way. At this very moment is when I realized that my silver arowana was going into shock. With his mouth opening like that, I knew that something was wrong. If one fish is going into shock, that means potentially that all the other fish might follow suit. All of a sudden it dawned on me that I made a huge mistake. Before adding fish to a pond, you have to let it cycle. You have to allow the beneficial bacteria to build up inside of the filter. And to make matters worse, I just realized that my filter is now leaking from one of the outflows. This happened during the moving process.
Definitely got water moving up the pump, right? Or is that water moving down the pump?
It might be filling up.
Yeah, because you got water coming out this bottom down here.
My outflow started to leak. This happened during the moving process. We somehow wiggled this PVC pipe out, and in return, it moved a lot of the silicone that was around it. And in order to fix this, I would have to shut the pond pump down in order to re-silicone these pipes. In order to re-silicone these pipes, this means that you have to let them sit for 24 hours, and that wasn't going to work out. Best thing that I could do was move the filter closer to the pond to try to minimize the leaking. Because if I can move it closer to the pond, that means that a lot of the water will go back into the pond. Everything that could have possibly went wrong by me not taking the time to plan in advance. I should have let the pond cycle for at least 3 days to a week before adding these fish. You should wait at least 72 hours before putting fish in your new pond, especially if the water is new. This way, the water temperature and chemistry can level out. Drastic changes in either can have a serious impact on the health of your fish. Ammonia and nitrate are extremely toxic to fish. That's why cycling is so important. High amounts of ammonia will literally burn them. Many fish do not survive cycling, which is why so many people buy a fish, put it in the tank, and then find it dead a week later. And there's another factor that I did not take into consideration before adding these fish to the pond. This was during the winter time. And during the winter time, I forgot that the water temperature fluctuates when it's coming from the outside hose. In the summertime, it's a lot warmer. This by far was the biggest mistake that I have ever made in fish keeping. I grew these fish out from babies and now had to witness them dying off one by one. And there was nothing I could do about it. My recklessness in the end cost all my monster fish their lives, and there was no one I could blame but myself. This definitely could have been avoided if I would have just taken the time and been more responsible. These fish were the main reason why I fell in love with the hobby in the first place. All these fish had different personalities and also were unique in their own way and were very special to me. And when I lost them, I knew that the fish hobby for me would never be the same. This was a learning experience for me. In any hobby, there can be lots of up and downs, a lot of bittersweet moments. Would I ever grow out monster fish again? I don't know. If I do, You would have to find out in season 2. It's your boy, Pond Saga 5. If you're ready to dive in to some epic aquatic adventures with your boy, make sure you tune in. Just download the Manola TV app on your mobile or TV device, and you can catch all my seasons. Make sure you search Pond Saga 5, and I'm out.